Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become the confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am very pleased to have with me my guest, Danielle Bernock. And let me tell you about Danielle. Danielle Bernock founded 4F Media, which is Faith, Family, Friends, Freedom, in 2014 to promote inner healing and personal freedom through the power of the love that heals, using all forms of media, beginning with her first book, Emerging with Wings. The following quote from the book has gone viral. Trauma is personal. It does not disappear if it is not validated. When it is ignored or invalidated, the silent screams continue internally, heard only by the one who held captive. When someone enters the pain and hears the screams, healing can't begin. And that's a quote from Danielle, Emerging with Wings, a true story of lies, pain, and the love that heals. Danielle is an international award-winning author, speaker, podcast host, and trauma-informed self-love coach who helps men, women, and organizations emerge with clear vision of their value, taking ownership of their choices, and chartering a path to embrace the change from surviving to thriving through her proven process of self, SELF. We'll talk about that a little bit more. She has authored 5 books, one with her grandson. How cool is that? Written for numerous online publications, and her stories have been published in 2 book anthologies. Her mantra is love yourself from survive to thrive. And she's known for being that lady on the internet who loves you. A longtime follower of Christ, Danielle lives with her husband in Michigan, near her adult children and grandchildren. Have to live by those grandbabies. Today, we are going to talk about a subject that I often have guests on, and that's understanding trauma. So please join me in welcoming Danielle Bernock as we start to unwrap this subject of understanding trauma. Danielle, thanks so much for being my guest.
Thank you for having me.
I see you have the wings as your necklace there, that a constant reminder.
Yes.
Before we get into really the meat of the matter today that we want to talk about, I always ask 2 easy questions. The first is just to please share, what part of the country do you live in? Where do you call home right now?
Well, I live in Shelby Township, Michigan, which is in southeastern Michigan, Metro Detroit area. I was born and raised in Michigan, lived here all my life except for 5 years in Arizona and 2 weeks in Minnesota.
Oh, wow. So talk about this journey that you had. You know, I shared all the things you're doing now and how inspiring you are with your story, but let's talk a little bit about that story, about the journey and what really inspired who you are today, why you do what you do today, and who you want to help.
I love this question because yesterday was the 11th anniversary of releasing my first book, Emerging with Wings. And I'm reading another book right now, and it used a term in that book, and I was, wow, that's what happened May 7th, 2014. In this book, it used the term inciting incident. That's a literary term for people who write novels and the hero's journey. That's when the pivotal thing happens that changes everything in the character's life. I'm like, May 7th, 2014 was an inciting incident for me. It was the day that I published that book and released it to the world and began this new journey. Before that, I'd been on the healing journey myself and writing the book, which was a whole journey in and of itself, because I learned half of the book while I was writing the book, which was one reason why it was so terrifying to put it out there for people to read it. It was new to me still. It was terrifying to release that book out there. I knew I wanted to help people. I shared my story, but I did not know it would be such a life change for me going forward. It's because of that book and the response to that book, the response to that quote that you read, which was an epiphany to me while I was writing it. Because one of the problems with childhood trauma and childhood emotional neglect is, as an adult, people tend to dismiss that and not take ownership of it. They belittle it. They should have been stronger. It's all their fault. It's nobody in, they don't own the truth of there being trauma. So for it to be trauma is personal was really the beginning of me entering my pain and dealing with it, because I compared it to everything that was larger than that. So that was so important. So releasing that book on May 7th and then people responding to it, it started a whole journey of me going into writing and having a blog and then freelance writing after that and getting a mentor and getting a business mentor and having a website, and one by one thing going into coaching and then going into speaking and having the podcast for 3 seasons. And I was in a grocery store vendor program for 3 years, was doing book signings and doing keynote speeches, and it's just been since that day, it completely changed the trajectory of my life.
And I really think, this is find your leadership confidence. And I always say that courage is the first step to finding your confidence. And it took courage to do what you did. It really did require you to do what you probably were pushing down and looking away from for many years.
Yes.
Let's talk.
That's the word that my counselor used when I asked her, when she said I didn't need her anymore. She called me a textbook success story. And I'm like, why? And immediately she said, courage. Courage. You did the work. You heard me. You addressed the things. You took courage and did what needed to be done. So yes, courage.
So let's talk about, what is trauma and how do you overcome the fear of talking about it? And I love that you also mentioned that we suppress it so much that we don't even, as we get older, as an adult, we have these issues, these fears, these concerns, and we don't even know that it came from something seemingly forgotten in our past.
Exactly. See, trauma is a wound. People tend to think that trauma is an incident. Yeah. But an incident that occurred is something that happened on the outside of you, and it's called a trauma exposure. It's an opportunity for trauma to occur. But trauma is a wound. You can fall down and either scrape your knee or not scrape your knee, but you still fell down. Excuse me. But so 2 people can go through the exact same thing, and one can emerge with trauma and someone else can emerge not with trauma or somewhere in between there. That's why trauma is personal. It has so many factors that go into it, and no one is impervious from trauma either. You can do things to make yourself stronger, have more resilience, and prepare yourself to be more stoic or whatever. But no one is impervious. I have a gentleman named John who his story is in my book, Because You Matter. I use him as the example all the time because he had done, if anyone could have been impervious to it, it would have been John because of his preparation and his skill level and his training that he was in. Yet still he suffered PTSD because of something that happened, because it's an involuntary wound. And I focus on that so much. It's involuntary and it's a wound. Because shame comes on the heels of it. When people think they have trauma, immediately shame comes up as if it's all their fault. And trauma is never your fault. Never, 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 never is trauma the fault of the person who is traumatized. Never.
Such an important thing to remember and stress.
Yes.
So when we talk about the difference between the childhood trauma and the adult trauma, you know, knowing that it's not your fault is important, but how do you help your clients distinguish between the two?
Well, I am not a therapist, so that's not really what I do with my clients. If someone is in that place, they probably need to go to a counselor and do therapy. Because I'm a coach, it's forward focused, not backward focused.
Awesome.
It's like driving down the road and you use your side view mirror and your rear view mirror. So you do look back, but you're focusing on what's in front of you. That's what I do, focusing on that. So I don't need to identify that with my clients, but I do address it in speeches I've done and workshops that I do. The difference between childhood trauma and adult trauma, it is a big difference that is way more than just how old you were, because it's also called developmental trauma. It's when you were in process of growing up. And I was realizing just this morning, because I lacked space on a piece of paper, I was writing out that word developmental, and I had to cut it in half, and I went, I never saw that word like that. Develop mental. A child is not fully mentally developed.
Yes.
So in the word itself, developmental, their brain, a person's brain, the prefrontal cortex, if you want to get special about it, isn't done until a person is 25. My daughter jokingly says, Mom, you were married with 2 kids before you had a whole brain. And it's true, but the illustration that I like to share with people to understand the big difference between the two, because both are a big deal. One is not worse than another. They are just different. Just like a maple tree is not an oak tree, but they're both trees. If you're making muffins or cupcakes, you mix up the batter and you get out your little tray and you put little paper things in there, and then you put the batter in, right? Then you go to put the tray into the oven, but if you hit the oven and you drop the tray on the ground, what does that look like? Some of the goo, the goo might be on the floor, might be on the tray, the cups might be upside down, and you can scrape that all back together if you wanted to cook it, to get it back the way it was, but it's never going to be the way it was. So, but if you got those in the oven and then the dinger goes off because now they're all done and now you go to get them out of the oven, but you forget your oven mitts and you drop that on the floor, what do those look like? Well, some might have fallen out of the container, some might have cracked, some might have looked completely crumbled, and some might look completely like nothing happened. But it's a completely different picture of what you're dealing with.
That's a great example. So can someone actually be suffering with trauma and not even know it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was suffering for half of mine and didn't know. My counselor identified it by something went terribly wrong. And that's one of the reasons why I have a free assessment on my website to help people identify is what you're dealing with because of what happened in your childhood. It's 30 different questions of the side effects of childhood trauma, because you don't see it. They can scan your brain and know if you have trauma, but we don't have brain scans to know if we have trauma. how we know is by how it manifests in our lives, which I call side effects. So people understand side effects from medication or something like that, or an illness or something. It's just, this is how it manifests, how it presents. And there's 30 questions in there. So you can find out, do you answer, 2 of them with a yes, 5 of them, 10, 15, 20, 30? And I tell people when I am speaking to encourage them with hope. At one time, I said yes to all 30 of those, all 30, but now I don't. So there is hope. You can have all that and you can heal from it. There's always hope. If you will take courage and deal with it, one thing at a time, you can heal from that.
And I think it's important to remember too that the longer you take that step, that the trauma can lead to you to be physically ill.
Oh, definitely.
It's not just, oh, I'm stuck, or, I can't seem to get out of bed. It could be really serious medical conditions that no pill or prescription or exercise is going to take away if you don't deal with that underlying issue.
That's so true. I remember the first time I did a Facebook Live a number of years ago, and I got bold and said it. And I'm like, I know it sounds like you think that I'm making a big deal out of nothing and I'm overreacting, but I said, trauma kills people. Trauma kills people. People get cancer from it, diabetes from it, all kinds of sicknesses and diseases and heart conditions. It kills people because it goes internal. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. The body does, because it's affecting the body, not just your emotions. And, the emotions are a part of your physical body as well, even though we can't see them. We don't really understand that they are part of the chemical makeup of our body. So yes, it is very important to deal with trauma because it can kill you. It's mental health issues there's 3 main causes of mental health issues. There's genetics, there's chemicals, and there's trauma. Trauma is one of the 3 main ways. In fact, if I understand it correctly, it is more of a cause of mental health than the other 2. So people who have mental health issues, if they'll deal with their trauma, there's a possibility they could get rid of them. Maybe not, it's not magical. I'm not a doctor, but wouldn't you want to try and see maybe this, wow, do I have ADHD because I have trauma? Maybe not. Do I have, this other thing? Am I manic depressive? Do I have bipolar, or do I have undiagnosed trauma? So deal with the trauma, and then what if that went away? Wouldn't that be awesome? Or what if you needed, 1/4 of the medication you take now?
Exactly. And, you have that stigmatism that I think in the newer generations, they are maybe working through it a little better. But, I know I'm a baby boomer, and the people before me, my parents, if this situation that they're in, that the trauma is causing, when they went to doctors, they just were categorized as being crazy. And so
They
then you
said
don't
it's all
talk
in your
about it.
head. They said
It's all in your head, all in your head. Doctors always tell
which
you
is
that.
true and not at the same time. And they would say, oh, it's psychosomatic, which back then meant pretend. But what psychosomatic actually means is your brain is making your body sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, the newer generation tend to be more emotionally intelligent. Boomers were not emotionally intelligent for them. I didn't know all of them, so I can't speak for all of them. I'm a boomer also, but my parents were not emotionally intelligent, and that's not to slam them. That's just like the way they were raised.
That's
You can't
exactly
give what you
right.
don't have. And Xers, there's some Xers that are and some that aren't. And I have coaching clients that are millennials, and they come to me. I coach emotionally intelligent millennials. They'll come to me with their issues, and they will be done coaching far sooner than someone who is older and does not have that skill, because they had to develop the skill of emotional intelligence.
Yeah. So what does it take then to heal the trauma?
It takes admitting it, validating it, and facing it, and seeing how it's affecting you and addressing that. You have to see what's going on. You have to expose the reason why. Then you have to lavish yourself with love and then take an action to get free. That's my self process. You have to see, you have to expose, you have to love, and you have to have free. You have to get the love or you'll never take the action. Because if you see the problem, expose where it came from, you're going to want to go in bed and pull the covers over your head. That's why you have to love on yourself and learn how to love yourself to take those actions that are in your own best interest, because that's what love is seeing value and doing what is best for the person you is the object of your love.
And I think that goes back to what you mentioned earlier is, and it is part of the emotional intelligence, I guess, that you're developing over this journey that you're taking, because it isn't your fault. And it's hard to love yourself if you think it's your fault.
And if you've been gaslit as a child and told it's your fault, then you have your own self and outside of you. So you have, more than one thing that you are dealing with. And that's where you need help. The different kinds of trauma. There's the childhood emotional neglect, and then there's complex PTSD, which are similar but different. And it's like layers. You have to deal with, you heal in layers because you can only do one thing at a time. If you think it can be done in 5 minutes, you're kidding yourself. Yeah, the more layers you have, the more time you got to give yourself. You just be gracious to yourself.
So I did want to talk next about those two things, the childhood emotional neglect first, and then the complex PTSD. So let's explain to the audience what childhood emotional neglect would be.
Well, childhood emotional neglect is when a child does not get their emotional needs met. Every child has a different amount of needs because everyone is different. Some are more sensitive, some are more stoic, just by nature. And a child who, no matter what they're like, they have a certain amount, a threshold of need. No parent's perfect, and every parent will make a mistake, and that didn't mean you screwed up your kid. It just means, did the child get what they needed enough? Enough. Did they get it enough? Now, did you drop the ball here, but then you came back and you apologized, or, then the next time you did it, or someone else came alongside? It's the need. And the difficulty with childhood emotional neglect is it leaves behind emptiness, and you can't see emptiness. When someone has been abused or beaten, there's a wound, there's a bruise, there's a cut, there's something that is seen to validate that something happened. With neglect, there's nothing you can see with your eyeballs. You can't see it with your eyeballs. It's internal, and frequently, if not always, the child has no idea that they're missing it because they didn't know, they didn't get what they needed. They don't know it's missing. So that's how, when I was at my counselor and I was telling her the story, and when going on to another story, and she stopped me, asked me a question that I didn't know the answer to. She said something went terribly wrong and proceeded to explain to me the way it should have been. And my mouth dropped open because I didn't even know that was a thing. So that's why, again, the assessment is so important, because that's the only way to see it is by how is it manifesting in your life. And one of the primary things I dealt with childhood emotional neglect is something called alexithymia, or also known as emotional blindness, not knowing what you're feeling, what it's called, or what to do with it, not understanding. It's like, what are these things called emotions? You're just like, and you've been taught to suppress them. So I was raised with emotions are bad, and I need to just keep them to myself, because I was too sensitive, I was too emotional, the whole, everyone's heard of the stop crying or I'll give you a thing. I see on TikTok, there's millennials asking their kids at the beginning of those sentences, if you don't stop crying, and then they have their child give the answer to it who's never heard the old thing. And they'll say, then I'll get you a tissue, is what the kid will say, or something like that. I'm like, I love that. Taking those hurtful phrases and turning them around into caring for your child. I brought you into this world, And the little girl said, and I'm never going out. It's changing that mentality because children need to be nurtured. We have emotional needs. Adults need to be nurtured. We have emotional needs. And childhood emotional neglect is when a child is emotionally malnourished.
So complex PTSD.
I'm going to draw the picture between PTSD and complex PTSD because they're similar but completely different.
Different.
And one's not worse than another. They're just different again. PTSD is caused by a singular event. That doesn't make it less. It makes it only one thing needed to happen to cause this.
Yeah.
Only a singular event causes PTSD with flashbacks and avoidance and hypervigilance. But then complex PTSD is multiple, prolonged, a variety of traumas. So there's many traumas. That's what I had. Many variety of traumas over a period of time. It could be the same thing happening over and over again. It can have a variety of things. I had a variety and some of the same. But that causes the side effects of PTSD and then some. So PTSD side effects and childhood emotional neglect is sort of like those two get married and give you complex PTSD, only it's not called emotional blindness. It's more like your emotions are distorted. Like you can't hear them properly because they've been mangled to some extent. So you don't have the ability to deal with them because it's like they're all twisted and bent up inside of you.
Yeah, your subconscious is driving the train. So you call yourself a former emotional basket case. So for any of those out there that are current emotional basket cases, how can you get that mindset turned around? You talked about going to therapist if it's extreme. What did you do to really become the former emotional basket case? And I guess, why do you call yourself that?
Oh, well, I went through a period calling myself that, trying to find ways to emotionally connect with people in words that are everyday. Because I try to simplify what I talk about. I don't like to use words like emotional dysregulation and the amygdala and all those big words because people are like, what are you talking about? So that's people understand what I'm saying if I say I'm an emotional basket case. But I put that into Chat GPT to get different ways of saying that. And Chat GPT corrected me that wasn't a very nice way of putting it. I said, yeah, well, I'm not calling anyone else that. I was calling myself that because in my book, Emerging with Wings, I called myself that because I could not control my emotions. I didn't understand. They were in the driver's seat and I had been kidnapped. I just, I had been kidnapped by my emotions, didn't know what they were, what was happening, where we were going, how to make them stop, change your attitude, what the heck is that, and how do I do that? I did not have a clue. And I got to a point where it's like, God, if you don't help me, that feeling of you don't help me, we're all going to die kind of thing, just very desperate. And, I read books and I prayed about finding help for things. And I found a minister lady who it's the first time I really heard trauma. She had gone through a completely different kind of trauma as a child, but she was the only person I knew who ever was talking about trauma. So I got my little cupfuls of help from her and reading books and along the way, and then went into counseling, and that turned out bad. So then I stopped doing that for a while. But a big part of my healing journey is my husband. He's chapter 3 in my book. He was a gift that God gave me because he was the first encounter I had with unconditional love. And that's the love that heals, unconditional love. And one of my traumas happened in the church, then it ended up with me believing that God himself had thrown me away. So I didn't think there was a thing, unconditional love. It was all conditional. You have to earn it. You have to act for it. You have to, pander and cater to everybody if you want to be accepted, even in the least. And feeling loved was just something I didn't know. So when God gave me this man who loved me, even though I tried to drive him away because I was so afraid of getting hurt more, it was life altering. So when someone comes in contact with unconditional love and they can start to believe it is something and they deserve it because that's how God loves us, even though a lot of churches don't say it that way, it's the truth. So I have a free ebook or a free audio book at my website called Love's Manifesto, which is what is love, why we don't believe it, and what it takes to convince us. It's free at my website to help people because love is what heals. But we have to, it's not as simple as, that's why I had that book to talk about, well, what is love? What are you talking about?
Yeah, right.
We have to love ourselves and we need love from other people. We need love from God. We were created to be loved. People need relationships. Loneliness is an epidemic and loneliness kills people too.
It sure does. The time has flown by. If you had just one thing that you wanted the audience to remember as we end this, what would that be?
You deserve to be loved. You are loved. I love you. God loves you. And no matter how you feel, no matter what you've done, you are worthy of that love and you matter.
Awesome. All right. If you have loved this conversation as much as I have and want to be able to connect with Danielle, then I will be sharing my slide that has her contact information. Of course, if you aren't able, you're driving and you're thinking, Vicki, I can't get that now. Everything is on my YouTube channel, Vicki Noethling. So please do subscribe if you haven't. Or you can go to findyourleadershipconfidence.com website. All of that will be in my show notes. So the website is daniellebernock.com. That's DanielleBernock. DanielleBernock.com. Facebook is her name again, Danielle Bernock. LinkedIn is Danielle Bernock. Instagram is D Bernock. So first initial, last name, Bernock. X is capital D, capital B for Bernock. And YouTube is Danielle Bernock Loves You. Again, YouTube is Danielle Bernock Loves You. I'm going to let Danielle talk to you about things that she has out there on her website, her books and other resources, as well as where she spends maybe the most time in social media. So if you go there, you can DM her and know that you'll get a reply quickly. So Danielle, it's all yours.
Yes, at my website, I have a whole page of free resources, including that assessment I mentioned, and my audiobook, Love's Manifesto. I have journals, 30-day journals, one for emotional health and one for gratitude. I have a lot of different free resources there, but I also offer a free 15-minute discovery call if you're interested in coaching, and then you can meet me, we can chat and see if we're a good fit if you are looking for someone to help you move forward in your life, because I would love to help you. I love helping people see things they couldn't see, expose the problem, and then get rid of it out of their lives and live a life that makes them just truly feel like they have meaning in their life and enjoy their life and repair their relationships, starting with your relationship with yourself.
Great advice, Danielle. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your journey, your pain, your recovery, and giving some good hope, I think, for people out there that may not even realize that they've got trauma. And maybe this will be that moment where they take that assessment and truly find out if that's what's causing them all of their issues and pain. Thanks so much for being a great guest.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed it so much.
Awesome. As always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling. signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.